Sawadee-ka and good afternoon. Today is Thursday, the 5th of May, 2022, and this is the English language summary of the press briefing by the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, or CCSA. Let's start right away today with highlights of the Thai briefing given just now, which summarized discussions in the CCSA this morning surrounding a number of the usual issues, monitoring, the global, regional, and domestic situation, and specifically as it relates to the updated entry measures. So let me first recap those updated entry measures for you, which for air travel into Thailand has been effective since the 1st of May. Fully vaccinated travelers, and you have a very nice infographic up there for you, thanks to the Nation newspaper. Fully vaccinated travelers entering Thailand are no longer required to take a COVID-19 test before or arriving in Thailand, meaning or after arriving in Thailand. They are also exempt from quarantine. Self-ATKs are still encouraged, particularly if experiencing symptoms, so that you can get the appropriate treatment as needed and as soon as possible. For unvaccinated travelers, they have the option of either, first, providing a negative RT-PCR test result within 72 hours prior to departure to be exempt from quarantine, or the second option is to quarantine for 5 days in an alternative quarantine hotel and take the RT-PCR test on day 4 to 5. For unvaccinated travelers who choose the first option, you would then be required to upload your RT-PCR result in the Thailand Pass system before departure. All non-Thai travelers are required to prepare proof of insurance with at least $10,000 coverage for medical treatment in the country. Please note that whether you are vaccinated or not, but if you are traveling to Thailand by air or land, you will be required to apply for Thailand Pass prior to your travel. The CCSA this morning discussed that Thailand Pass is guaranteed to be approved within 48 hours. More information can be found on the Thailand Pass website and on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs media outlets. However, if you are traveling by sea, you will be required to apply for the COE. So once again, thank you to the Nation newspaper for this very clear and concise infographic. Now let's turn to our usual updates with an update on entry into Thailand, and the slide up there for you now represents that during the 1st to the 4th of May 2022, 73,004 travelers entered the country. Of this number, the majority, or 72,919 travelers, entered via the quarantine exemption scheme. 85 travelers entered with 5-day quarantine. The next slide that's coming up for you shortly, and there it is in lovely green. The majority of international travelers come from these top 10 countries of origin during that same period from 1 to 4 May 2022. And that is namely Singapore, Malaysia, India, the UAE, the UK, the US, Australia, Vietnam, Germany, and Cambodia. Happy to see a number of ASEAN countries topping that list. It reflects a welcome resurgence in regional tourism. Let's turn now to another slide. Indeed, the high number of incoming travelers is one of the indicators that we look to for the country's path to economic recovery, and to aid that recovery while also ensuring that we do not let down our guard when it comes to dealing with pandemics is international cooperation to firm up those efforts. So I am pleased to touch upon and share with you today actually the outcome of the recent official visit to Thailand of the Prime Minister of Japan, as you see there on screen, as it relates directly to supporting our fight directly against COVID-19. And that is that during the visit, the Ministry of Finance signed a loan agreement worth 50 billion yen, which is the equivalent of 13.2 billion baht, with the Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA. The loan is called the COVID-19 Crisis Response Emergency Support Loan and is intended to boost Thailand's public health capacity, which includes improving COVID screening procedures along border areas and helping to fund COVID-19 treatment so as to ease economic pressure on citizens. Our thanks and sincere gratitude to the government and people of Japan, and to both sides actually, for making the visit a very meaningful one, also for us here at the CCSA. Let's turn now to the general situation, as we usually have up for you on screen, and that is the COVID-19 situation in Thailand currently. New confirmed cases today stand at 9,790 cases. It's a very good downward trend that we are experiencing in the last few days, and you have there new recoveries at 17,109 cases. That's nearly double the amount of new confirmed cases. So these are good numbers that we're seeing in the last few days. Unfortunately, still recording those fatalities, but at a low number of 54 cases today. Most fatalities are from the elderly and medically vulnerable groups, including those who have not been vaccinated yet. Let's turn now to our usual list of top 10 provinces with COVID-19 cases. And as you know, the numbers in green reflect a number less than the previous day, in red, a number more than the previous day. And as usual, we have Bangkok topping that list, although today that number is in green at 2,990. That's followed by Buriram, Chonburi, Samut Prakan, Roi Et, and the list goes on. Let's now take a look at the progress in our vaccination drive. Yesterday, we administered a total of 144,809 doses of the vaccine, which increases the accumulated number of vaccinations to 134,017 million doses. This brings us to 81%, or over 56.3 million people of Thailand's population having received their first dose. 74%, over 51.4 million people, having received their second dose, and nearly 38%, which is over 26.3 million people who have received their third dose. The CCSA is now focusing efforts on getting children aged 5 to 11 years time before the new Thai school year begins on 17th of May, as well as booster doses for the elderly. Let me now turn to a study that has gotten quite a lot of interest lately, and that is a Harvard University study which has found that people who reported eating the most fruits, vegetables, and legumes had a 9% lower risk of getting COVID-19 and a 41% lower risk of developing severe COVID during the study period, compared with people who reported eating less fruits and vegetables. Dr. Saipin Chodwichian, director of the Bureau of Nutrition at the Department of Health, elaborated that the study found that those who based their diets on fruits and vegetables and completely abstained from meat and processed foods had a total of 73% lower risk of contracting COVID. Dr. Saipin said the WHO recommends a varied diet consisting of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis, as well as to reduce sodium intake by capping it at least 1 teaspoon, or at most, 1 teaspoon per day. Sugar and sweet foods and drinks should also be limited. On screen, you have a QR code linked to the article I was talking about in case you want to take a look at that further. Indeed, a healthy diet is as important, if not more, as getting vaccinations. Before closing, I have another piece of good news to share with you, and that is that Chulalongkorn University has recently announced some very welcome progress on the development of the ChulaCov-19 vaccine, which is Thailand's homegrown mRNA vaccine. The first lot of the vaccine is now being produced in Thailand and will seek approval from the Thai FDA for the third phase of human clinical trials very shortly. And this means that we may soon have another arsenal in our toolbox. to fight COVID. That's all I have for today. Please do all that you can to stay safe and healthy. Have a great week ahead of you, and thank you for your attention today. We will see you again next week right here. Thank you. สวัสดีค่ะ